Each year we save over $1,000 with our egg-laying chickens. So it's now time to do a little chicken math. And if you're new to the homesteading community, chicken math is a term that was coined many years ago by homesteaders that basically just want to make sure that when they're doing the math with their chickens, they're coming out ahead financially. That can be meat birds, that can be egg layers, it really doesn't matter. But now we're going to look at our egg layers, and I can show you just by the numbers how we save $1,000 every year by having them. The beautiful thing is you can do this too. Now, I had to write this stuff down because I didn't want to get the numbers wrong, and I want to make sure that you have the exact information that you need. Our flock currently consists of 13 egg-laying hens. Each hen should lay around 250 eggs per year. That's the average for the breeds that we have. That adds up to 3,250 eggs each year with all 13 birds. If you think of it as a dozen rather than eggs, that's around 270 dozen eggs each year. Just imagine 270 dozen eggs stacked up on your dining room table. That'd be crazy. That's 1 year from our 13 hens. When we used to purchase eggs, before we had chickens, we would purchase eggs that were organic from the store for $5 a dozen. In 1 year, my flock should lay around 270 dozen eggs. So if you take the $5 we were paying at the store times 270 dozen eggs, that should give you $1,350 each year. So that's the big number, $1,350, if we use the $5 that we used to use when we would purchase dozen eggs at the store. Now, I've seen eggs go for as high as $9, pasture-raised, organic eggs, locally sourced. I've seen them as cheap as $2 years ago, but to tell you the truth, you're not going to benefit from eating $2 eggs. You want to buy quality eggs. So $1,350 is what we're technically saving each year before we subtract or deduct costs to raise chickens and maintain a flock. We need to subtract feed. That is an obvious cost that every chicken owner is probably going to deal with. We spend $240 each year on layer feed. It's a local layer feed that we purchase from our co-op. It's a small business that we love supporting. That's where we get our food from. So now you need to remember, 1,350, that was our number, our benchmark, right? Our stable number there. You need to take 1,350, subtract 240, and that equals 1,110. So now we're at 1,110. Now we need to subtract the chick purchase price. We've got 13. We ended up spending $39 to purchase the chicks to begin with from the hatchery. So they were $3 a piece, in case you're wondering. If you subtract 39 from 1,110, we're now at $1,071. The last thing we're going to subtract is electricity. When you have baby chicks, they need electricity. They need a heat lamp or something to keep them warm. You got to have it about 90 to 95 degrees for the first week, and then you can reduce the temperature after that. When the chickens were first born, they needed a heat lamp 24/7. Our electric bill increased $30 each month for the first 2 months, so that's a total of $60 we spent on electricity to keep these little chicks warm and safe and cozy in their brooder before we put them outside. So that gives us a final number of $1,011. $1,011 is our final number, so we make it just over $1,000 a year with our current flock and our current setup. I'm leaving infrastructure out of the equation. Coop door, water bowls, all of that stuff that I have, the fencing, I'm leaving that out of the equation. And the reason why I'm leaving that out of the equation is because you really don't need all of that stuff. For example, you could free range your chickens, therefore you don't need fence. You can find scrap lumber and just crap wood that people are giving away for free online and just make some kind of box for them to stay in at night. You can sprinkle their food all over the place. You don't need a food tray or some type of thing to contain their feed that you purchase for them. You can honestly just use any type of thing that contains and holds water from your house and you let them use that. You don't need to buy any of that stuff. I'm sure you have stuff in your kitchen that holds water that chickens can drink out of. Maybe you have a little creek on your property that they can scurry on down to and get fresh water there. So I'm leaving all that out of there. Not only because they don't need all of that stuff, I recommend having that stuff, I really do. I'm super thankful that we have that stuff. I love our automatic door, I love our fence setup, I love our coop setup. It makes our lives a lot easier and the chickens a lot safer, but you don't need that stuff to have chickens. As a matter of fact, lots of people free range their chickens and they do just fine. Another reason why I'm leaving it out of the equation is because it really depends on everybody. I mean, you can have a coop that costs $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 if you really want a fancy one, or you can have one like I have. I did a video on that recently, and I spent probably $300 to $400 max on all my materials, probably not even that. The final reason is because infrastructure is going to, if you do it properly, is going to outlast your chickens and possibly outlast you. So the chicken coop that I built is very sturdy, it's very well done. It's water resistant. It's meant to last a very, very long time. That is going to last much longer than my chickens. So the numbers I gave you was per year. So we purchase our chickens within this year. We purchase feed every month. We had to pay for electricity, obviously, when there were chicks. So those types of numbers do have to be part of this equation. But all this infrastructure stuff, like my fence, it's going to last a really, really long time, much longer than my chickens will. My water dishes are going to last way longer than the chickens will. They're hard plastic water dishes. My feed trays are galvanized steel. They're probably going to outlast me and you. And my chicken coop, like all that stuff is just going to outlast these chickens. So I could have 10 flocks after this, use the same exact infrastructure. It's just a matter of what you want to use on your homestead and what you feel comfortable with using and how you want to keep your chickens safe. If you're wondering how we feed our chickens, our 13 hens for $240 a year, one of the reasons is because we don't use a lot of feed to begin with. I'm talking about grain, 100% layer feed meant for layers. You can feed your chickens just on this feed, of course, but we try to use other things as much as we can. Chickens are omnivores, so we feed our chickens food scraps probably 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes 4 if we do a lot of cooking. We don't eat crap at our homestead. We don't eat junk food, we don't eat processed food, anything with dyes in it, anything with toxic chemicals. We don't have seed oils, we don't have any of that stuff. Not saying that you're a bad person if you do. We just choose not to live that way. We are a whole food family and we can give almost everything we eat to our chickens and they really benefit from that. So instead of spending $500-$600 on layer feed every year, we can spend $240 because twice a day, sometimes 3 days, I'm walking out to the chicken run and dumping out food scraps that the chickens eat. And whatever they don't eat just turns into compost that we can put in our garden. So it benefits us either way. So we don't really care if they eat it or not. It's good for them, but we get it back in compost later on, perhaps 6 months to a year later. If you'd like to learn more about feeding chickens to maximize egg capacity and get more eggs from your chickens, click on this video right here. I go in depth on how I explain how we feed our chickens with layer feed, food scraps, and another type of supplemental feed that I think your chickens could benefit as well. Thanks for watching Together We Harvest. I'm so glad you joined me for this video. We'll see you on the next one.